Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're giving you our Week 10 fantasy football starters, streamers, and fades. We're helping you make all the right decisions on who you should keep in your lineup, who you should take out of your lineup, and who could help you in a pinch this week. Let's start this fantasy football podcast right meow.
Hit that drop. Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Football Upside. I am Justin. That is Kyle. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football podcast and YouTube channel. We appreciate it. Week 10 is already here, Kyle. It's insane how quick the season has gone by.
We made it. We made it through those double digits.
Right? But we are definitely here to help you win that championship. And today we're hitting you with our starts of the week, streamers of the week, affectionately known as streamies of the week, and fades of the week. Definitely check out our waiver wire pickups for week 10, as well as our Thursday night football start sit matchup where Kyle is pointing, but they're also going to be in the description below. Definitely check those out. Kyle, what you got?
All right, guys. Hey, we've been adding some subscribers. We're loving the interaction with you guys. We've been getting some good comments, some good back and forth. We're trying to help everybody out. We really want to help you get to that championship. And this is that time of the season where you really have to make a lot of right decisions. You got to make some good moves, good trades, good waiver moves, who to drop, who to pick up, what's a safe play, that sort of stuff. And so we're here asking all the time, because we're more than willing to help out all season long, but especially now more than ever. And so make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell so you're notified every time we upload the podcast. And if you have a question, you can drop a question down there. We try to pay attention to older episodes if there's comments popping up in there. But if it's a reply, it doesn't actually alert us. So if there's just a reply going on, we have to keep kind of hunting and coming back. So the more recent the episode, the more likely you are to get an answer to your question.
Absolutely.
So hit those questions, throw them at us, guys. Let's get it going. Let's dive in headfirst into the shallow and get through the starts of the week streamers, as Justin said, streamies never cross streams, and our fades of the week. These are the guys not necessarily that we say you should sit, but that you should be cautious about.
Yep.
All right. So starts of the week. What do you have at QB?
I have Kyler Murray versus Buffalo Bills. Shocker there when it comes to what Kyler's been able to do here recently. Jared's going to love this one, of course, but Murray is on a crazy hot streak right now. So the last 4 weeks played, he has finished as 5, 5, 2, and 1 when it comes to QBs. That's pretty good last time I checked. And Buffalo is just
He plays Seattle twice. It's just like all the tight ends out in the NFC West last year. It's like they get to play Arizona twice. So
stream your tight end against them. But not
so this year it's you stream your QB against Seattle.
Yeah. But the Buffalo is, they're better in Seattle when it comes to stopping QBs, but they're just right there in the middle of the pack. And I just don't see anything slowing down Kyler Murray right now. So
not right now.
Your start of the week at QB?
And you know what? I'm going to Aaron Rodgers against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's allowing the third most points, fantasy points to the QB position this year. And Aaron Rodgers, just frankly, he's killing it with the opened up playbook. Like we talked about this right before the season started, where I was saying, you know what? Maybe we should start coming around on Rodgers here, because if they open up the playbook, there might be more to this here. And he's got some real weapons out there. You can't deny the value of Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams and Lazard at that time was coming on and stuff. So we were saying, I don't know, maybe he's going to have a decent year, and he's playing furiously. Like he's angry clearly, and he's doing very well with it. And so look, they're going to focus on Jacksonville's going to focus on trying to shut Aaron Rodgers down, but the defense is just not capable of stopping both Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones. And because of Aaron Jones' capability in the passing game, I think that elevates Rodgers beyond the normal, we can just center on one thing and we can shut him down. Keep him inside the pocket and avoid the passes going down the field, shut down Devontae Adams. But then you've got Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield constantly, and he just is squirrely as could be and gets open. So that's where I am on that. You're going to hear that team's name quite often, but for a lot of reasons. And here's one. Who's your running back?
I have James Robinson going against your Green Bay Packers, and I'm going back to the well on this one because I picked him last week, and he actually finished as running back 3. So think I did okay on choosing that one, but this is another mouth-watering matchup.
Yeah.
So the Packers did okay last week, like you said to me off air. They did okay stopping the run last week, but they're still giving up the second most points to opposing running backs. So, and then good old Jake Luton, come on down.
Well, one thing I would have to say about
Yeah.
Robinson, about the Packers' run defense, is the middle linebacker that they have. They have an undrafted rookie middle linebacker, I believe. It's Burns or something. And he was out for a couple games. And that was when they had those big blow-up games that they gave up. He was back last week, and he was in there making tackles. They feel comfortable putting this guy out there, and he's bigger than Oren Burks, who was supposed to be this run stopper. And it's like, the dude's as big as I am. I mean, so I would just be careful with expecting him to be the guy this week across the league. I do not believe for a second that the Packers are going to shut him down completely. He is a beast. This dude is a big guy. James Robinson is a really big guy. So yeah, I'm all aboard the James Robinson train as well this week, even though it hurts me.
Right. But I actually thought Jake Luton, or Luton, however you say his name. Sorry, I probably messed it up. But I mean,
we should call him up. I'll call him up and ask.
Oh, okay, you do that. Write that down.
Yeah.
But
write that down.
I mean, he looked like a functional quarterback. I mean, it was against the Houston Texans last week, but so maybe the Packers can't just pack the box to go against Robinson, because I mean, he has a big arm, and a show with one of the first passes of the game was 70 yards to DJ Chark.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where you have to kind of can't pack it, and it should be all right. So and I mean, overall, you mentioned James Robinson's a beast throughout the year. He's number 4 right now.
Yeah.
Number 4 running back.
You know what? I was getting to the point. I have him in our league, as you obviously know. And I was getting to the point where I was like, do I trade him? Do I think that this guy's actually going to be valuable next year?
Maintain this long?
Yeah. Because, we're a keeper league, and he's obviously got to be in the conversation for a keeper. And then I saw a game where I saw a play where he caught the ball at about the 10-yard line, and he's getting hit out of bounds by 2 guys, and rotates his body. He's fully laying out, and switches the ball from one hand to the other so he can reach inside the pylon with the ball. So he brought the ball back in bounds while he's laying out vertically or horizontally, and taps the inside of the pylon. And I'm like, okay, I'm keeping this guy. Yeah, I'm not trading him away. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I've never seen anything like that. Ever. Yeah.
Who do you have as your running back starter?
We're staying in the same game, and that's going to be Aaron Jones against Jacksonville. And hey, I've selected Dalvin Cook 2 weeks in a row, so this is new territory for me.
Right.
But Dalvin Cook was RB1 both weeks. So let's see if I can keep the streak alive of picking RB1, and that's Aaron Jones. Jacksonville is allowing the 6th most fantasy points to the running back position this year. And he was definitely not held back last week. There was no pitch count. He might have had a snap count, but there was nothing about how many touches he was going to get. And after the mini bye, I think he should be 100%. If he isn't 100%, I'd be surprised if he isn't right at it or near it. And this is, in my mind, this is going to possibly be a ball control game between both sides to some extent, where what they're going to try to do is keep the other team's offense off the field, because James Robinson is such a threat to the Packers defense, that I think the Packers are going to want to run as much clock off as they possibly can actually in this game. So I don't anticipate this being a hugely high scoring game, even though both defenses are very, very suspect this year. So I think that what you're going to find is that, Jones, he's going to get a lot of work in the passing game, but they're really going to try to hand off a lot to him. And you can't deny the talent level. You give him the 6th worst defense in the league against the running back. And I think that he's going to capitalize on that. And LaFleur has figured, hey, this might be the most talented guy on the field, not named Aaron Rodgers. So even though Devontae Adams is a friggin' animal, dude is an animal. Who do you have as your wide receiver?
My wide receiver, I am looking at Robert Woods going against the Seattle Seahawks, and maybe seeing this game again here just shortly, but Seattle's giving up the most points to opposing wide receivers, so that's usually a pretty good sign. And they're coming off a bye right now, the LA Rams are, but week 8 Woods had a pretty big week 8, and I mean, against the Dolphins,
Mhm.
which aren't that bad against opposing wide receivers.
They're a very surprising defense, I think, for a lot of
Yep.
people this year. They're very good. I
Yeah.
don't know why it's surprising. I mean, Flores is a
Flores
really
is
good
a-
defensive coach.
Absolutely. I mean, at one point there was a guy that, was with the Patriots that went to another team in Detroit that was somewhat good on defense, and that's just not true now.
Good on defense.
Yeah, exactly. But going back to Robert Woods, I mean, he caught 2 touchdowns during that week 8 matchup against the Dolphins. I expect a lot of work. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and that just goes right in line with what Robert Woods needs. And you can see that they're starting to look at him a little bit more at the in the red zone. So I'm liking that. But who do you have as
Robert Woods is a great red zone target. Like I've always liked having Robert Woods because of the consistency.
Just need to throw it to him more.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. I'm staying in the same game. I'm staying on the same side of the ball because Seattle is terrible and the Rams have 2 viable guys, and that's Cooper Kupp. I mean, look, this is the best defense for wide receivers to face in the league this year, and they've proven all season long that they're reliably bad. It isn't like, they had like 2 or 3 blowups from crazy, like good games from DeAndre Hopkins or something like that, right? No, it is literally they give up a wide receiver 1 every week. I don't think that they've actually had a week where they didn't have a wide receiver 1 performance against
like a top 12 wide
I want to say,
receiver.
a top 12 wide receiver every single week. That's what they're giving up. That's insane.
I feel like that's not a good thing.
That's not a good thing.
It's great for us in fantasy football world. But,
Yeah. Especially if you can roster that many wide receivers.
Right.
We can't. But here's why I think that Kupp and I was back and forth between Woods and Kupp as well. Yeah. And I chose Kupp in the end because he had 21 targets last week. 21 targets in week 8. Sorry, not last week. Week 8, right before the bye. And so you kind of hope that that's a sign that there's a bigger and more reliable focus that's going to go towards him in the offense. And I think that they're going to my anticipation is that coming out of the bye, they will have recentered themselves. They started to get away from the passing game the last few weeks before the bye until week 8.
Yep.
And so my thought is that they're going to realize that they need to go back to the pass as their primary mode of moving the ball and trying to score. And that they'll just say, you know what, we've pushed with the running backs as much as possible, and we just don't have a guy who's going to be the one right now.
Right.
And
they don't have a Todd Gurley back there, right?
Yeah, they don't.
They have a 3-headed monster of just
Yeah. And I think the guys that they have potential. It's just it's not realized yet. Whereas Kupp and Robert Woods are both obviously very, very dominant players when you give them the opportunity and then you put them against the worst pass defense in the league. That's great. It's wonderful. All right, let's hit up tight end here. What do you have as your start of the week at tight end?
TJ Hockinson going against the Washington football team. It looked like Hockenson was the main beneficiary of Galladay's missing targets. Galladay was out last week. He did not practice at all last week, Kenny Galladay. That's not a good sign for him to actually suit up again this week. So if that's the case, that is something I am really looking at TJ Hockenson as a really good tight end streamer. I think this is going to be a heavy pass volume game, and he could be the number 1 option for Detroit. For some reason, they just
He's been like tight end 4 or 5 over the last few weeks, right?
He has. And for some reason, I keep falling into the thought that Marvin Jones is going to be the guy, like whenever Kenny Galladay is out. Mm-hmm. Marvin Jones has done okay. I don't think he had a single target in the first half. You know what I mean? Like
that might be, yeah.
That's not sustainable. So
no,
TJ Hockenson is in the game plan from the first series on. So
I think that what we have to conclude at this point is that maybe Matt Stafford is losing a step.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's part of what's going on here, actually. I don't think it's entirely the rest of the guys. And so I would say that if Matt Patricia loses his job, which he should, that they will both hire a coach, hopefully a new GM, and they'll go and draft a QB.
Yeah.
They'll try to, move themselves up into the higher,
I think,
or the earlier
right
part
now
of the
a
draft.
top 10 pick, but it's like the 8th, 9th, or 10th right now. So it's not. Yeah.
I remember, I think it was 2 weeks ago, seeing on Twitter, a bunch of Detroit fans talking about how they were going to by Thanksgiving have like 10 wins or something. And that was just a couple weeks ago. And I wanted so badly to respond and say, they're not even going to win this weekend, guys, let alone run the table here. What are you talking about? They were going against the Colts that week. I was like, yeah, I mean, the Colts have made mistakes, but like they've shot themselves in the foot is what they've done. And if they just don't make mistakes, Detroit doesn't stand a chance. But Hawkinson has just been dominant the last few weeks. He's just a guy you got to start. All right, so my guy, I'm going actually back here to the Packers. I'm going with Tonyan, rhymes with Funyon against Jacksonville. And look, surprise, surprise, Jacksonville is an all-around terrible defense. They give up the third most fantasy points to the tight end position this year. And so look, Tonyan went bust last week with only getting one target, but he has been consistently north of 4 targets per game reliably in the last few weeks. And his targets have mostly been downfield many of the times that he's had targets this season. And his target value is fairly high. I wrote those notes before I actually went and checked, because I've watched the games and I'm like, yeah, he went 1 for 1 last week, but it was like a 35-yard, or it was going to be he had a 35-yard target or something that he didn't get. But his target value usually is really high. And so I went looking. I was like, I want to see what this is. He's 10th in average depth of target, which isn't great, but it's tight end 1 value. He's 5th in yards per route run. He's number 1 in separation, catch rate, QBR when he's targeted, and fantasy points per target. So he needs higher target volume in the passing game. He is the guy who should be the second passing target in that offense. Yeah. Especially with Lazard out. So I think you might see him have that game this week. I don't know. There's so many different ways to attack this defense. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Is Lazard going to be back this week, or do we know yet?
I don't know. I think that he still has another 7-day period. He could be activated as late as midweek next week.
Okay.
He has been taken off of IR, but he has not been added to the 53-man that I'm aware of as of yet.
Gotcha.
All right, so let's move on to streamers here, streamies, right? And let's talk about guys that you can pick up off the waiver wire that are rostered less than 60% rostered on Yahoo. That's just the benchmark we like to use. These are guys you can plug in and play this week to fill in a spot, because there are a lot of players that are on bye this week. Good games, good teams who are on buys, and so we have some opportunities here for you.
All right.
Who's your QB?
At quarterback, I have Baker Mayfield versus the Houston Texans, 33% rostered. Now, I'm going to stop real quick and just say this is all contingent on him clearing and getting removed from the COVID IR list. He does not have the COVID. It's just he was within close contact to someone that was a positive. So this is kind of very similar to what happened last week. Yeah, it's very similar to what happened with Matthew Stafford last week.
Roethlisberger this week as well.
Yeah, so it's not unheard of right now, during these times. But to go back to this game, the Houston Texans are giving up the 5th most points to opposing quarterbacks. This looks good for Baker. Also, Austin Hooper should be back. He was out for the last couple of games for appendicitis, healing up from that. Also, Nick Chubb could potentially be back. And it's like, well, running back, how's that going to help Baker? I think that can open up the field a little bit more because, I mean,
Chubb works in the passing game too, but a lot of his value is that he runs out wide.
Wheel routes, man.
So, well, not only just wheel routes, but actual stretch runs. His value is outside of the tackles.
Yep.
So.
I have a lot of play action possibilities as well, and I think they run a lot of play action there, Cleveland, and they're going to have to really honor it even more having Chubb and Kareem Hunt back there. So,
The one caveat I would throw out there is that you said it looks good for Baker, and I'm like, that's been the case a lot of times. Yeah. So that's my one concern there. But I wouldn't mind having Baker back. I've got him in another league, and that's the league I lost Dak Prescott, and then I lost Ryan Fitzpatrick, and so I'm struggling. This is the league I told you I picked up Garrett Gilbert,
Yeah.
or Gilbert Garrett, whatever his name is. I don't even know. I started.
You did all right.
I started him. He did okay for me.
Yeah.
I won my game. I had the lowest winning score in the week, but I won my game.
You're that guy.
I was that guy. Oh yeah, I should not have won my game. It was a blowout. I should not have won. All right, my streamer actually. And I'm going to choke it back here. We're going back this second week in a row. You had him last week. I've got him this week. And that's Drew Lock going against Las Vegas. He's currently 20% rostered. And yes, it does make my stomach turn, but he's actually been pretty good lately. Las Vegas is giving up 6th most fantasy points to the QB. So it's a good opportunity. Whether he'll capitalize or not, I don't know. He's not going to blow anybody away. He has a decent baseline score for you, which is what I always look for when I'm trying to stream a QB. I'm looking for a good situation with a guy who's got a decently consistent bottom line number, and then that gives me all the upside that I need.
Yep.
This situation is exactly that. He's got a good baseline number, and he's got a lot of upside because the opportunity is really good. You add into that last week he broke 300 yards for the first time. And let's see here. What else? He's connecting better with his wide receivers. I would suggest that you go and grab some wide receivers out there if you can. Judy, Patrick, just different guys like that if they're available. And then look, he's got 5 passing TDs in the last 2 weeks. He's got 2 rushing in the last 3 weeks. And the downside for him is a lack of accuracy. That's really what it boils down to. He's in the 50 percentile. You got to get north of 60 to even be competitive really in the NFL. Yeah. And so that's going to be the problem that you're going to keep running into with him and then that's going to depress it a little bit. So him getting up around 300 yards, I think is probably what you could hope to see happen. If he gets 302 TDs plus a rushing TD, maybe you've had a great day out of him.
Great day.
Yeah. So this is not a long-term solution type of dude. This is I need a bye week fill in this week and I have a spot I can rotate somebody into and boom.
What are you saying? They're going to have to potentially draft another quarterback? I thought Elway was the best at drafting quarterbacks.
He should be. He's drafted a lot of them. He's evaluated a whole lot of QBs. He's got to have, hey, if experience is all that matters.
Yeah. The odds have to be on his favorite.
I don't know. I do live in Chicago. You might find a few people here who would say otherwise. So yeah. All right, let's go to tight end here. Who are you going to stream at tight end? We don't talk about running backs and wide receiver streamers because
that's not
you're not streaming those guys. You got to build depth. That's not a thing.
Depth there.
So tight end, what do you got?
Trey Burton going against the Tennessee Titans, 22% rostered. The Titans, they're decent at giving up points to tight end. They're just right there in the middle of the pack. But the biggest reason why I think this is a decent tight end streamer is Jack Doyle is probably going to be out this game. He was out with a concussion during the game last week, and they're playing Thursday night football. So that is probably too quick of a turnaround to get him out there. And Mo Alley-Cox is not the same Mo Alley-Cox we saw, whenever Trey Burton and Jack Doyle were out.
Yeah, once Burton was back.
They turned him back into that run blocking tight end, and then they're throwing Jack and Trey out there.
He's the new Mercedes Lewis.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's a behemoth of a man. Another thing, T.Y. Hilton may return for this game, but I mean, T.Y. Hilton's not really, taking any targets away.
Does it matter?
It
if
really
he's
doesn't.
Back or not?
It really doesn't.
If you have T.Y. Hilton, he's droppable whether or not he plays, guys. He's droppable.
Yeah.
At this point,
he really is
sitting on the waiver wire in our league.
Yep. And I feel like Trey he's due for another touchdown right now. It's been a couple weeks of a dry spell after coming back from the injury and scoring back-to-back games. So I think this is going to be a really good one for him.
Yeah.
Who do you have as your tight end stream?
I'm going to go with Logan Thomas. He's going against Detroit. He's 37% rostered right now. Detroit they're 19th in fantasy points to the tight end. So that's not a great thing, but this offense doesn't have enough playmakers to justify turning away from Logan Thomas, who's averaging around 5 targets a game, up and down from there, as many as 7. And so he's actually 3rd on the team in targets. And that's only because Antonio Gibson has been catching the ball out of the backfield. Otherwise, he'd be 2nd on the team in targets. There are no other legitimate weapons on this offense. So
Scary Terry.
That's what I'm saying. It's those 3 guys. And McKissick took a lot of targets, but he's not taking them away from Logan Thomas. He's
No.
taking them away from Antonio Gibson. And so, look, Alex Smith is going to zero in on the tight end and the running back the rest of the season. And so while we usually are just focused on what can you get out of this week on streamers, I think he's a guy who you could consider just holding on to and rolling the dice on week after week after week, depending on whether or not you have another person you can rotate in or out and just play the matchups, because Alex Smith is going to check down a lot. He's not going to be able to get that ball down the field. I think that McLaurin is a trade. If you're in a redraft, I would be selling McLaurin.
If you can get any value out of him right now, might as well.
Yeah. I mean, well, this might be the last opportunity to do so.
And that's just not what Alex Smith can do.
Not anymore. No. So I think that this week, I think that is a possibility that I could see, like, inside of the 5-yard line, they turn away from the run and they do a play action pass to Thomas on a rollout on just a corner. I could just see that, him getting in there and
or just coming right across the line or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's an extremely athletic tight end. So I like it. I think it's a good play this week. What do you have at defensive streamer?
Defensive streamer, I have the Minnesota Vikings going against the Chicago Bears.
That's a safe bet.
It's not a bad bet. And only rostering in 24% of leads. So because the Bears offense, they kind of stink.
Yeah. Wait, I have something for that.
Oh,
it's the Bears offense.
That is the Bears offense. They may even be without their top running back, which is not really a top running back anyway.
They're talking about going back to Trubisky.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
They've scored like 3 points on offense in the last 3 weeks.
Snap. I mean, Michael Scott, he knows. He said that's not a good thing. If you keep going back and forth, it's not a good thing. Even with quarterbacks, it's not.
Yeah.
But the Vikings were a top 6 defense last week, and I'm going to say they probably have a good chance of being a top 6, top 5 defense this week, and being able to pick them up off the waiver wire. I think that's a pretty good bet. Who do you have as your defense streamer?
You know what? It's a broken record at this point, right? That's right. I'm going back to Green Bay, guys. I'm going to Green Bay here because Jacksonville. Yeah, look, Green Bay's all over my starts this week. That's offensive against defensive, right? But guess what? I know you might not be able to believe this, but Jacksonville's offense is really bad against defenses as well. They give up a lot of points as well to the defenses that they're facing. So that's a good opportunity for a team that is getting to be a little bit more ball hawkish. And their downfield threats. You got to look at what does Jacksonville have as downfield threats? Well, they've got DJ Chark, sort of Chris Conley earlier in the year, but beyond that, it's Laviska Shenault, who's just coming across the middle constantly.
Yeah.
And I don't see it happening. Jair Alexander, if he's healthy, he's going to be shutting down, and he has shut down everybody pretty much this year that he has faced. He's going to shut down Chark, in my opinion. And then you add in that Laviska Shenault's going to have to deal with Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage.
And he's still coming back from hamstring injury as well. So,
And so I think that the passing game, the downfield passing game, is actually suspect here. And so Luton, who's a rookie, could throw into some bad situations, just make one, throw the wrong shoulder and boom, it's an interception, pick 6 potentially. I don't know. Green Bay's become much more opportunistic. They're not relying as heavily on the sacks lately. And so I think they could be good for you. They're 38% rostered, if I didn't mention that before. And so that's a good opportunity. I think that the trend's going to continue with them. They're just going to become more and more valuable as the season goes along, as they face inefficient offenses who are traveling to Green Bay. I think you're going to see more drives just stalling out. So, yeah. All right, let's hit up fades here. These are the guys that we're saying you got to be a little cautious with, maybe turn away from them if you can. If you can't, just temper your expectations and hope that you can pick up some points in other spots. So let's run through these fairly quickly. What do you have as your QB fade?
I have Ryan Tannehill going against my Indianapolis Colts. This is a quick turnaround game after he was kind of pretty mediocre against the Bears. And I mean, this is an even tougher matchup, on paper against the Colts. And the Colts team it's actually kind of healthy on the defensive side. It's not healthy on the offensive side, but
Yeah.
they may also get their pass rush specialist, Kamoko Ture, back. And let's not forget, Titans lost their stud left tackle, Taylor Lewan, after week 6. And that, after week 6, that really coincides with Tannehill's vast decline in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, he's not a guy who could play under pressure.
He put up those top 5, weeks, like I think it's 4, 5, and 6. And then as soon as Lewan went down, his numbers just dropped drastically, but he's still owned in a lot of leads, and people are still
Henry is slipping a little too, man.
Yep.
Slipping a little too. It's the value of your left tackle.
Yep. Who do you have as your QB fade?
This one kind of hurts because I'm having to probably start this guy this week because I've got Mahomes on bye. And that is Joe Burrow at Pitt. Pitt allows the 4th least fantasy points to the QB position this year. Burrow has been under pressure all season long, and he has performed under pressure because he's getting a lot of opportunity, right? Mixon is still out as of right now. By the time that this is airing, he may be back. We don't know exactly.
Right.
Gio Bernard is serviceable, but in a situation against Pittsburgh, probably less.
You want to have all your guys that you can out there.
Yeah. So look, Burrow's put up decent numbers against pressure. I made this point to you earlier in the season that you picked him to have a bad week against Baltimore. And I said, he'll have a bad week, but it won't be a terrible week because the dude's used to playing on the run based on the lack of offensive line all year long. And so he's got a whole lot of experience of having being chased all the time.
Yeah.
And
I got experience on not having a clean pocket. That's for sure.
Yeah. I watched the breakdown this past week that what's his name did on QB School on YouTube, and check it out, guys. Go and check it out. He talks about Burrow. He evaluates 4 different plays, and there are some sick plays that he's making. Yeah. It's just insane. Like he threw a dude. He didn't throw a guy open. The route was supposed to continue on a slant all the way to the corner, and he sees the guy get hit, and he decides, okay, I'm going to throw it to his back shoulder because I think he's going to turn around right now. But the dude hasn't turned around. He turns around and the ball hits him in the chest, and his arms just close around it. That's how blindly he threw that ball, and he threw it over a dude's head between his arms.
Didn't I say, was it Joe Burrow that I said I thought he threw a really nice ball? Is like one of the nice looking balls out there.
Yeah, he does. A lot of people say that he throws dimes. Like he's just a really good, accurate thrower. Yeah, he's got a really nice ball. Yeah,
he really does.
Yeah, you're walking a fine line there. This is not the week to start Burrow unless you have to, like me, and you're an idiot who's also holding Gio Bernard and thinking, well, maybe Mixon will not be back, and I don't want someone else to have Gio Bernard, or maybe Mixon's out long term. So look, I think the one upside that you have here with Burrow, even though I'm fading him, is that he and AJ Green have yet to get on the same page this season. And if they do click, AJ Green is dominant. He has been getting open. Watch the tape on him. He has been getting open. It's just that the moments that Burrow is making bad throws seem to always be when AJ Green's the guy he's throwing at. And maybe he hates him. Maybe they don't like each other. I don't know what's going on, but he misses him very often.
Yeah.
So that's it. Burrow, QB. All right, running back. What do you have as a fade?
Josh Jacobs going against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are the 6th toughest at giving up points to opposing running backs, and they're kind of the opposite when it comes to giving up points to offensive wide receivers. So it's one of those things where this could be a game script for the Raiders. Like they may take some more shots down the field. They keep mentioning that they want to get Henry Ruggs more involved, and that means shots down the field. Yeah. So I think that's one of those things where I'm kind of just thinking of a game script. Derek Carr's still not scaring people.
Yeah, but what if they do race down the field, score a bunch, and then the game script flips to let's control the game and run out the clock? That would be the only way I can see Jacobs like turning this on its head. Otherwise, I think you're absolutely right. This is
but I would just go back to your streaming quarterback of Drew Lock. I mean, they're just going to keep passing it as well, and somehow they're still getting it done when it comes to him throwing the ball. So I just think this is going to be one of those high scoring games, but I think it's going to be a lot of the wide receivers and maybe even some tight ends out there getting some more. So who do you have as your running back fade?
This is an interesting one. I am going with Alvin Kamara. And he's going up against San Francisco. San Francisco allows the second least fantasy points to the running back this year. If there's only one strength they have, it is the defense against the run. And Kamara has been on a tear this year, but hasn't been used as heavily as you would like going against strong defenses, actually.
Right.
They didn't use him heavily last week, and I don't anticipate them using him heavily this week. So you go from Tampa Bay, really bad matchup, to San Francisco, an actually even worse matchup for the running back. So last week in a blowout, they were blowing the game out. He had 9 touches and 5 targets. Yeah. So he got a TD that saved your day, but his yards were way down. I want to say he had like 39 total yards or something. So this is a situation that even if they do get the game in hand, he's still not getting used because they believe so heavily in New Orleans of attacking the weaknesses of the defense and avoiding the strengths of the defense that you can't anticipate him getting much work other than the passing game, really. Right. So it's a tough call, but I'm saying fade him. I'm not saying don't start him. He still will produce. Right. But my concern here is that if he doesn't get a touchdown for you, this is a borderline RB3 week potentially here. So that's where I'm at. What you got at wide receiver?
I have Adam Thielen against the Chicago Bears. I think we've realized the game script is very clear for the Vikings if they want to win.
Yep.
Take the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands and just kind of place it just gently into Dalvin Cook and let him do his thing.
Yeah.
That's what we've seen the last few weeks. And Thielen has been hit the hardest when it comes to putting up some duds these last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So
I want to say that they took that last week in the beginning of the second half, they took Dalvin Cook out of the game, and then did not take Kirk Cousins out of the game yet. That shows you what this offense is really about. Yeah. Not to mention that it's Gary Kubiak calling plays. So
right. But the last 2 weeks. So Thielen had 3 points in week 8, 4 points in week 9 for a guy that was going as a top 5 wide receiver when it comes to the start of the season for the first few weeks.
His targets were up there.
They were. I mean, we talked about this.
Yeah.
We thought maybe he could potentially lead the league in targets, and he was well on his way. And then they realized.
Nobody anticipates Cooper Kupp getting 21 in a week.
Right.
So. Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I wish it was a better, but this is a tough matchup as well. I didn't even mention the fact that Chicago Bears. So that's what I got for my wide receiver fade. What do you got?
I'm going with Tyler Lockett against the Rams, actually. The Rams are second best against the wide receiver this year. Other than the track meet that they had against Arizona in week 7, during the last 5 games that they've played, that Seattle has played, he's averaged just over 5 targets a game and under 40 yards a game, actually. He's too inconsistent at this point. And if he is consistent, he's been consistently underperforming. And not only that, he's losing targets to DK Metcalf at this point. This is a really tough matchup. I don't expect it to go any better for him this week. And he needs a higher volume for him to be valuable to you, because without that, he's not getting down the field often enough, getting enough separation, getting those targets that are the high value targets that make him relevant, which are those ones that are like the Jordy Nelson type of touchdown passes that you're looking for out of him.
Yep.
I'm not saying that he's like Jordy Nelson, but those big 60-yard TDs, they're going to DK. That's what they're doing with those now. Yep. So the targets that he's getting are not as high value as they once were. So I'm concerned about it. And this is not a good matchup situation. So, all right, let's hit up tight end.
Hunter Henry going against Miami Dolphins. And we mentioned how Miami Dolphins is actually a pretty good defense this year with Brian Flores. I can't even speak right now. Can't even talk good.
Can't talk good.
Can't talk good, but Justin Herbert can throw good, but he's just not throwing it to him. He's throwing it to Keenan Allen, and that's pretty much it. But the Dolphins give up the 6th least amount of points to tight ends in the last 3 weeks for Hunter Henry. You ready for this? 2.3 points, 3.3 points, and 3.3 points again.
Yep.
Yet he is still owned, Kyle, in 92% of leagues. But that just gives you an idea of how bad this tight end position has been this year.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy still has all the talent in the world, but it's just a wasteland. And I mean, he's definitely droppable at this point.
Yeah.
But what do you replace it with? That's the issue. You can't really find that many talented tight ends like he is. It's just, man, what a tough year for him. I'm really surprised by what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you have as your tight end fade?
Talking about recent bad games, right? I'm going with Jonnu Smith. He's going against Indianapolis, and so that's the primary driver for why I even began investigating. And that's because Indianapolis is best against the tight end in the league. They're allowing the fewest fantasy points to tight ends. But it gets worse than that. Smith's targets are not there. Over the last 4 games, he's averaging 1.5 targets a game and 20.25 yards per game. And
is
so
this,
that's just
right in line with when Corey Davis came back. I'm assuming. I think
it possibly is. Yeah.
But
I mean,
AJ Brown coming back and then Corey Davis coming back,
Yeah. I think he had 1 target, 2.
Yep.
And that's just not going to get it done. I mean, you look, the way you evaluate tight end is you look at routes run, you look at their snap percentage, the routes run, you look at the targets that they're getting off of that, the depth of target, that sort of stuff. That's why Robert Tonyan is a value right now,
right?
Because he has all of the indicia of success. He's just needing additional targeting. Jonnu Smith's not getting the targeting, and he's also not getting down the field. He's not getting the routes. He's just, like, everything's going in the wrong direction. And then you toss in an extremely bad matchup, and this offense is not going to run through him this week. So look, although the tight end is a wasteland, as we often say on this podcast, this year it's a wasteland. You can stream a better matchup for upside because there just isn't a ton of upside here. So look, if you've got Jonnu Smith, I would try to sell him if I could. I don't know what you're going to get at this point. I would try to trade him away, and then I would consider streaming tight end and just playing matchups the rest of the way, because you can definitely rely on getting more than 1.5 targets a week out of somebody off the waiver wire. And you find yourself a better matchup with more upside as a result. So that's rough. All right. So guys, that does it for the fades. We're going to hit you up with our survivor picks and then get out of here. So who are you picking in survivor this week?
I'm doing it. I feel like this is one of those ones where it's like, if you're going to, this is the week. If you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it now. And that's Detroit Lions going against the Washington football team. And I almost vomited just a little bit.
Yeah.
This is
wait. It's a trap.
It could be.
It's a trap. I think Washington wins this game potentially.
Yeah, they could. But I mean, based off the spread right now, it's a 70% chance of winning for the Detroit Lions. And
historically,
this is one, yeah. And this is one I kind of like, is the fact that they're only chosen in 3.2% of survivor leads. So if you're trying to find a way to set yourself apart, this could be one that you could look at and be like, okay, let's take this gamble. Let's say I only have 1 strike or, no strikes. This could be a gamble.
If you have a multi-strike league, a lot of leagues are single strike and you're done.
I know.
So, ours is slightly different because we do 3 strikes, but we have a limited number of people, and then we start doing double picks in week 8.
Yeah,
where you have to pick 2 teams. It starts getting really thin right around now. It's getting rough. I'm going with Green Bay against Jacksonville, as I have all day long, right? But here's why. They're a 14-point spread right now. That's an 87% chance of winning historically. And then the problem with this pick is that there are a ton of people picking it. There's like 54% across all platforms that they're picking Green Bay. And so if Green Bay loses and the Lions win, then basically you're going to win if you've picked the Lions. Now, that's a gamble. It's a risk. And so, some people are going to I saw somebody in our league picked Atlanta last week. That's a pretty ballsy choice right there. But they were right. They got it right. I think Green Bay this is the time to use them. The rest of the season, they don't have any spreads like this lining up. So I think that the most expected value you could get out of a Green Bay pick in a survivor pool is this week at this point. So, and I think they're the highest spread of the week. So, That's where we are, guys. All right, guys, that's going to do it. This is a little bit of a longer episode. We apologize for that. Usually it is a little bit longer because we go pretty in depth on each player because we want to talk about why we like and why we don't like certain situations. Kind of clues you into how we think about things. Make sure you drop a comment if you have any questions about what we said or you got any questions about what we didn't say. And hit that subscribe button as well as the bell to notify you every time that we upload this podcast. I'll make sure to go ahead and throw some episodes from this week onto the screen here, but boom. Yep. And make sure, like I said before, that you subscribe. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for being fans of the Upside. Bye.
See ya.